Recording. And we are live. Happy Sunday morning, everybody. I hope you're
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hope you're having a good morning. Well, what's there to talk about, Kaitlin?
Oh my God, lots of stuff to talk about, Jeff. You and I both have iced coffees on a Sunday morning. It's nice and hot outside in Massachusetts. Roe v. Wade was repealed, which we never thought would ever happen.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a nitpicker.
What?
Roe v. Wade was overturned.
Oh,
and this is
okay,
going to lead into one of our topics. Okay. I'm sorry, we got to be precise here.
Overturned. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Precise in language. It was overturned.
Never a law.
Yeah. Sorry.
And I'm not. I'm not
really happy about it.
I'm not being nitpicky against you, but I want that needs to be clear. So much to discuss.
Lots.
A lot. People are liberals, progressives are flailing, acting out.
They're very mad.
Screaming.
They're very, very mad.
But this is the culmination of a 40-year project. Okay? And we're going to get into some of the crazy takes and the lies. But I'm going to start out with this statement that I think has been said by quite a few people across the board, including like Megyn Kelly this morning. Roe v. Wade was never a constitutional right. It isn't the right to an abortion. Does not exist. It never did. And you were sold a bill of lies after Roe v. Wade. It's not abortion is not a constitutional right because it's not in the Constitution. Okay? Yep. And we'll get into all the politics of it in a second, but you have RBG to thank for it, who didn't want to retire. And it's clear. A lot of liberals are upset.
Not only her, right?
Yep.
Not only her. Harry Reid. Thank you, Harry Reid.
Thank you to Harry Reid.
You're a national hero, Harry Reid. Thank you for your filibuster reform. You were warned not to do it by Mitch McConnell back in 2013, and you did it anyway. So thank you, Harry Reid.
Yes. There's a lot of liberals out there that owe thanks, and they're already calling for more things that we'll be thankful for if they want to change them. We'll get into that in a little bit. But that is it. Whatever the legality of it. So, Kaitlin, I'm going to kick it off to you. I'll start with the legality of it. Abortion was never a constitutional right, and Roe v. Wade was rightly overturned this week. The floor is yours.
Oh, so you want me to go? Yeah. So Roe v. Wade was decided under the 14th Amendment on a right to privacy that protects the woman's right to choose abortion. It was made up that this constitutional quote unquote right was made up by 9 men back in the 70s. And so, yeah, it challenged a Texas law at the time. And from then on in, we had the quote unquote abortion rights. And essentially it took, and this is the issue, the big thing that with Roe v. Wade, is it took a political issue out of the political arena and put it into the judicial system, and they had to make a decision on this. And so you see over the last 50 or so years, conservatives building up their like FedSoc and their legal groups in order to challenge this. And so the conservatives have been playing the long game on trying to overturn Roe v. Wade, and they won. I mean, over time, if we're talking about the politics of it, along with the legislative and the legal side of it, the liberals got very lazy on this. I mean, I do have to say, like, and they went nuts. Like, that was the big thing. They went nuts. And the conservatives within the Republican Party, I mean, the GOP has had an overturn of Roe in the party platform since 1976. That was the year that Reagan kind of rose to power. and became more of a national figure. And then obviously in 1980, he became president, and won the nomination to be the GOP candidate. But anyway, yeah, I mean, we've had several cases over the course of the decades on abortion. Roe v. Wade's one, Casey versus Planned Parenthood of was Southwestern Pennsylvania is another. Bob Casey Sr., one of the last pro-life Dems in the Senate. And then we get to Dobbs, and Dobbs so Mississippi passed a law where they essentially put down a European style abortion restriction on you can get an abortion up to 15 weeks. Okay. This is like pretty mainstay in Europe. France is, I think, up to 14 weeks. I think the UK has one of the more liberal, and I think the Netherlands maybe, or Belgium, one of those smaller countries, has one of the longest, I guess, timeframes in which you can get an abortion. That one goes up to, I think, like 22 to 24 weeks. And so, yeah, liberals sued on the basis of wanting to get an abortion after 15 weeks. And, they went to the Supreme Court, and the Mississippi Attorney General is the one who argued this case. And he is the reason why Roe v. Wade was overturned.
You touched on a couple different things there, where I think it is important. The Federalist Society, which was a legal movement for conservatives, I guess took place, started back in the 70s, really has been playing the long game on this. This has been...
It has been a long-term goal, and I think that people... It's like when, what was it? Like Tom Nichols, I think, on Twitter, was trying to be like...
He blocked me, so I don't know what he said.
Yeah, he blocked me too, but people sent me his stuff because it was so insane. He was saying that the game was that Republicans never tried to overturn Roe v. Wade, that it was always going to be like a cudgel, like kind of how the Dems treat immigration, where they use it as a campaign or campaign thing that they whacked their their
right.
base
It was
with
just just to raise money. Nobody was sincere about it. They didn't really care.
They're not sincere about immigration. Like, we all know this. They never want solutions. I mean, they lie to their base all the time. That's one of their biggest criticism. I don't think liberals really understand that. No, FedSoc was created in order to create this legal group in order to put down conservative ideals within the court system and be able to challenge certain legal cases that
and the preeminent philosophy behind that is that judges don't create law out of whole cloth. If you want to create a law, correct, your legislature does that. Your legislature creates the law.
Right? There's two principles coming out. What you just said is that Roe v. Wade created out of thin air a constitutional right out of the 14th Amendment, right? Mm-hmm. Out of thin air. So it took a political issue out of the legislature, and then the courts made that constitutional right. And that was never what the founders wanted. That's not how constitutional rights need to be created. And so, yeah, it's been interesting, seeing the reactions to this, and it's back in the political arena. It's back in the legislatures. This is what it should be. I mean, Democrats for decades, while conservatives were building up, this legal, I don't even know what to call it, group that
framework.
Safety, framework. This quote unquote safety net of people who are trained to protect conservative ideals. They've done nothing. And they didn't believe that we were serious on this.
Yeah. So two things on that. One, two more things to kind of move on to sort of maybe the next aspect of this. The conservative framework of this is that the Constitution, as written, means what it means as written. There's a philosophy, a progressive philosophy, that says the Constitution is a living document. And they sort of get around that by saying, well, you can amend it and you can make changes to it, which is true, but it requires a massive amount of groundswell of support to do so. But that's
I agree with that point of view. Okay. But amending the Constitution should be hard on purpose, right? Like,
yes.
That's one of the things. It's like, I do agree with that point of view. The reason why amendments are really hard to pass, or they're easier to pass in times of big strife where we have to have that massive political will to come, like with slavery, with 13th Amendment and all of that. I mean, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's easy to do that when there's massive political will. Right now, we don't have that.
Correct.
Okay.
Very contentious.
And then, I mean, I guess like another instance of this would be with maybe like back when alcohol had that constitutional amendment, the alcohol ban.
Yeah, that's a good example.
I mean, but they ended up repealing that, right? Like,
right. So, well, the after effects, the unintended consequences of it. So, like, they passed prohibition, a constitutional amendment, right, outlawing the sale of alcohol, because people think that, like, people focus on 1933 and the repeal of that amendment and how bad that amendment went, and it spawned the age of the gangster, and it was part of the Roaring '20s. But prior to the passage of that amendment, we did actually have a very serious alcoholism problem in the country. Like, it was bad. People were, you know, there was, I mean, the alcoholism rate was a lot higher. There was a major problem of not regulating it. It was an issue, but it was an overcorrection to ban the sale of it, right? So the ban and sale and production. So obviously the after effects of prohibition, the violence that took place, and the fights for the control of the illicit industry made it so that the new groundswell of
it's interesting now. You see, even with that issue, now the feds and state governments have deregulated, I guess, the brewery industry, and now you see breweries pop up all over the place, and it's been good because if you kind of regulate it on the local level, it works, and then like if you allow those breweries to, that's a side note.
Yeah, yes. I know we're getting a little bit, but the constitutionality of it, you're right. So the Constitution, the Federalist Society, and what it is designed to do is produce legal minds that understand the Constitution means what it means as written, and it's not open to interpretation for judges to reinterpret it, and as we move, you know, away from talking about the legal aspects of it, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I even think Ginsburg, RBG, did she have the point of view that, like, she knew that Roe was a bad decision? Maybe she was pro-abortion. Probably, but
so one of the things about Ruth Bader Ginsburg that I absolutely love is that people don't really understand her as a person, and they don't really understand what she has said in, you know, statements and all of that. She's way more nuanced if you actually listen to her long form. And one of the things that she has said is that Roe is an awful, terribly decided decision. She still is she was still pro-choice. That's fine. But as a jurist, yeah, she was not a jurist. As a judge, she said that, yeah. She's made many comments on these sorts of things, and I had to hand it to her, like, you know, like, it's brave in order to stand up to what your political side is. She knows what her political side was. She was incredibly intelligent, and say things like that. So yeah, she knew. So,
all right, as we kind of move away from more of the direct legal aspects of it, I want to touch on a couple things. I'm going to play a couple clips here. The first one is this from Maxine Waters. And I want to play all, just so you know, Kaitlin, I'm going to try to play all the clips first to go on this theme.
The hell with the Supreme Court. We will defy them. Women will be in control of their bodies. And if they think black women are intimidated or afraid, they got another thought coming.
All right, that's Maxine Waters. We will defy them. AOC.
Illegitimate! This decision
You get the point. Ed Markey, as of 2 days ago, the Supreme Court has overruled Roe v. Wade, executing a decades-long far-right plot to destroy the constitutional right to an abortion. We just discussed that. And forever eroding any semblance of legitimacy to this stolen court once held. There can be no question now that we must expand the Supreme Court. So, this
I think Liz Warren said something to the
effect of that. Right. Pack the court. Yep. So this is troubling aspect. You know, for all the hubbub over the January 6th committee and all the people who are clutching their pearls over the threat to democracy and illegitimacy.
I mean, I do have to say, right. So even on top of that, Jeff, what really worries me the most is not only these elected officials saying that, but the Department of Defense basically came out and said that we're ignoring this decision. Right.
Another aspect. Yep. Just flat out ignoring it.
And so I've never seen the government. I mean, I've seen the DOJ do that. We saw that with Obama.
This is seditious. Ed Markey is being seditious.
Department of Defense. Yeah. The Department of Defense saying that when they are take an oath to the Constitution is very concerning.
Right. The proper way to address this, and I might even get into this in a second with, we have Maura Healy queued up. The proper way to address this is within the constitutional bounds that our country exists on, by AOC saying it's illegitimate. It is not illegitimate. Maxine Waters saying we will defy them. No, you won't. Ed Markey saying that the court is stolen. And the hypocrisy that the far left and even the moderate liberal left undertakes in this is astounding. Not unsurprising, just astounding how they can breathlessly talk about January 6th and a coup and insurrection while they're actively promoting the concept that the Supreme Court decision is illegitimate because they don't believe Donald Trump won the election in 2016. They never believe everything that happened under his administration is somehow illegitimate because Russians bought $300,000 worth of Facebook ads in 2016. Like that's their basic premise. They believe this. Okay, they are as insane as QAnon is on the right, but we give them much less attention, and the media will ignore them. And this is a major problem.
Well, and it's been a decades-long disintegration of faith in our institutions, right? Like, I mean, like this stems back from the 2000 election. Sorry, I mean, like
correct,
with Al Gore, trying to say military ballots weren't worthy of being counted so he could win an election. And then we see that in 2004 with several members of the House and even a senator.
Ed Markey was in that 2004 cadre, was he not?
Benny Thompson, who is on the January 6th committee. And Jamie Raskin in 2016 tried to say that electors didn't count for, what was it, the state of Florida? Mm-hmm. I think it was. So yeah, I mean, like it's one of those things that's very concerning, right? Like you see, we agree that what happened on January 6th was not great and it wasn't whatever. We agree that Donald Trump did something bad on that day. We did not enjoy that day. But then I see AOC saying that the Supreme Court is illegitimate and this decision is illegitimate. And I see several elected officials doing the same thing. And that is, to me, is as crazy as what people say about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Do you know what I mean? Like
they are both equally insane.
And the problem is that Marjorie Taylor Greene has been stripped of her committees, right? Like, so she has no real political power other than her microphone. AOC has real political power. All these other people, Liz Warren, she has real political power. So does Ed Markey. So does Maxine Waters. Maxine Waters, I think, heads a committee. Like that is very concerning.
Yeah.
And then you see Biden not really trying to tone down the rhetoric at all. I mean, like, and that's the problem. So he's the head of his party, and they're rapidly moving left. I think in these midterms, we're going to see, and we can get into the politics of Roe on the midterms in a second. You're going to see these really, really blue areas go really, really progressive. And that's a problem, because that's just only going to amplify their voice. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but it is a bad thing when they put out misinformation and try to say things like certain things are illegitimate based on loss of political power. Okay. And that's really concerning.
Correct.
I mean, that's the same thing you criticize Donald Trump for. Okay. And so why is it okay for you to say it and it's acceptable? And then you I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's very concerning for the future of our country.
The blue areas get bluer theoretically. This is theoretically too, because here's where I think it gets into. I mean, I have other clips queued up, and maybe we're stepping on them a little bit, but whatever. I'll deal with that in a second. Just real quick, I want to show even the former Obama administration official Ben Rhodes. Current SCOTUS majority has an extreme degree of illegitimacy when you consider it how it came to be. Oh, and by the way, so it's not just
he worked on Hillary Clinton campaign, FYI.
Yeah,
he is a main. That's the thing. So we're talking about AOC, Ed Markey, Liz Warren, Ayanna Pressley. These are far left progressives. They are upfront about being far left progressives. Ben Rhodes is your average liberal, and he is mainstream. So that is concerning.
And to not just mention that the decisions Donald Trump made and the judges he appointed were illegitimate because of Donald Trump, because of 2016 election, but on top of that, Mitch McConnell held the seat because we controlled the Senate. Republicans controlled the Senate, and this is a fight that is clear as day. The president nominates a judge to the Supreme Court. The Senate confirms them. The Senate consents. Okay, the Senate has the power. A lot of people get that, but they want to deny that. A lot of the liberals and progressives want to deny that. And it was perfectly legitimate and within the powers of the Senate and Mitch McConnell to control that process and not seat Merrick Garland on the Supreme Court and hold that seat because they control the Senate. And let's be
to that point. Yes. So to that point, people forget the right. So the president has the power to nominate. Okay. Their only power is to nominate, right? The big deal here is the Senate confirmation. Okay. So the Senate of elected officials, 2 senators per state, have the ability to confirm.
Correct.
That justice. And that's a bigger deal. And so people forget that because the presidency has become so huge in the United States. Yeah. And that's a problem. It is a problem.
And the Senate is not obligated to confirm that judge, nor are they obligated to even give them a hearing if they don't want to. There is no obligation. Yep.
That was their argument on Robert Bork. Thank you, Ted Kennedy. You did this. You helped push this to this point.
Again, thank you, Harry Reid. Thank you, Ted Kennedy. Your side does not understand removing the guardrails that have been put into place that provide for a more stable country and government. They just don't. They are incapable of conceptualizing it.
They only think in terms of power at the time, correct. Right? Like it's very short term. Right. Like right now, I think that the Democrats don't really understand is that they keep destroying themselves over short term power. They have no and God, I'm giving you advice here. You have no long term vision, long term strategy, and that's one of the reasons why you now see Roe versus Wade overturned. Mitch McConnell, he warned you on this. Like, I mean, he said you will regret this, and you will regret this sooner than you think. 9 years, Jeff, 9 years. 9 years after that statement was made, after Harry Reid decided to nuke the filibuster for judicial nominations, we have a repeal of Roe v. Wade. Like that's one of and we have a major gun case this week too. Like there's some bigger ones that are coming. The EPA one is really big. That one might be next week. But like, I mean, I don't think they're really conceptualizing that your short-term strategy of just throwing shit at the wall all of the time, it doesn't work. Okay. Conservatives are very smart. They play the long game. And that's what they did here. And now have Roe v. Wade overturned. And I'm happy about it. We got the goal. Like, that's the thing.
It's, you know, I was quiet on Twitter and at Facebook, so, you know, waste of time. People I know. I didn't post anything about this on Facebook. Why?
I posted McConnell's quote.
There you go.
Saw it.
Well, there
That's
you
the
go.
only thing I did.
But it's like there's no point. But there's no point. Like the purpose of this podcast is to educate those who agree with us on good counter arguments for the long term, and take on directly, so that media and the activist class that we're involved with understand that our arguments are superior. There's a lot of liberal. There's plenty of. I know that journalists watch this podcast, and at least in Massachusetts, Boston area, of course they do. And our arguments are better. There's a reason why you guys don't have on conservatives to discuss major issues on WGBH, on WBUR. There's a reason why the Boston Globe, if you look at the front page of their website right now, I would say of the dozen stories on links on there, at least half of them involve like some insane woke agenda or fanatical racism or far left climate or abortion. It's all there. You are doing fan service for your side. You don't engage. You stay in this bubble, and you get weaker and lazier and flabbier, and we win. And you're watching it.
Let me read one of the titles of those pieces in the Boston Globe. This is war, and if you're not fighting, you don't care. I mean, is that really going to motivate people?
Let me say this. Like, but let me say this for that. If this is war, you said this. You said this. You declared war. We're here for it. We're here for it. I mean,
we have, and that's the thing. We have the national framework, legal framework, in order to handle these things. We've had major wins. Again, conservatives played the long game. So when liberals keep on trying to play the short game, and when they play the short game, do these like miniature bursts of like power grabs, you're not putting forth your best team. Like, you're not thinking towards the long game. You are just throwing shit at the wall.
They're just reacting emotionally, which is really kind of all they're capable of doing. It's what they do. It's how they educate kids. It's like your feelings, your truth. You hear this phrase, your truth. There's no your truth. There's your opinion. And they think that your opinion equals truth, and it does not. And the search for truth is put aside to coddle emotions and to get people to not think and rather than not think but rather feel. And this is the culmination of it, of years of weakness, of just. The media landscape has a lot to do with this too, because it's all this compounding effect. It's media, it's academia, it's politics, it's government. It's insulate, talk to each other, cancel this person, don't listen to a countering opinion because it might hurt your feelings, right? This is how we're educating kids and raising their kids. It's like you don't grow intellectually or physically or get stronger without resistance. You need to be challenged. Your thoughts need to be challenged. And if things are too triggering and you get upset, remove that triggering aspect. No. Get better by challenging it. And the Boston Globe is a perfect example, because now that advertising as a revenue source has pretty much gone out the window for newspapers, they rely on subscriber numbers. Well, your subscribers want to hear what they want to hear, and they don't want to hear something else.
Right.
And that's the same thing with WGBH, and it's the same thing with WBUR. And what I'm going to do for this podcast, plans in the future, is use that weakness to make us stronger. And it's going to take a long time in places like Massachusetts, but it'll happen. It'll happen.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like the long game. It's going to be a methodical approach. Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. Like, that's the thing that in like, I think the left here in Massachusetts only has so much farther they can go. I mean, they're going to be promoting some like pretty deplorable shit, but like, because they always do, like the what was it, that Roe bill where they wanted 16-year-olds to be able to have abortions all by themselves.
This Kaitlin, that's an excellent point. And this I think this gets into what probably is the next aspect of this. And we'll play some clips from Maura Healey, but before we do, the Roe Act from last year which Charlie Baker vetoed. Okay?
It was too far for him,
right.
And he was pretty pro-choice for being a Republican because he's a New England Republican. Like, I mean, even I'm from the South, and so like I am pro-life. I mean, I'm pretty libertarian on some like social issues, like gay marriage. Like I consider marriage itself like to be a conservative institution. So I want 2-parent households. I would like gay people to get married. Because I think that it's good for the country when marriage happens and people want to keep that institution going. So I agree with a lot of New England Republicans on this point of view. What I do not agree on is sometimes New England Republicans being squishy on stuff like the Roe Act, but Charlie Baker stepped up to the plate and he vetoed it. That's the best I could hope for. So
let's game that out, right? Specifically locally. You have Maura Healey who is going to run on this, and believe me, liberals out there, please, progressives, run on abortion. Inflation is at double digits. Gas prices are insane. Food prices are going up astronomically. Everything is costing more. The economy is beginning to contract. There's a war in Ukraine.
We're getting those
numbers
next week. Like we'll find out if we're in I think we're getting those numbers about 2 weeks. Next week or the week after.
We're in a recession. Okay?
Yeah.
And I want you liberals, you want to run on abortion, run on abortion. Run on abortion. Because here's what it comes down to, because this it'll benefit us. What it's going to come down to is 2 aspects of this. You're going to run on abortion, and that'll be your plank, and you're going to talk about it. You've already maxed out the number of people that are super involved in this. That number, you can't add to that number, okay? You are the balloon is full, right? It doesn't expand. On top of that, you're going to ignore actual policy questions that are hurting Americans in real time. And 2, what exactly are you going to run on specifically? Because the Roe Act was just vetoed in Massachusetts, and the veto was sustained in Massachusetts. Are you going to run on expanding abortion rights? What does that mean? You want to get into the specifics? Does that mean late-term abortion? Polling starts to shift after that. Does that mean allowing 16-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 13-year-olds to get an abortion without their parents' consent? Polling starts to switch on that once we get into the specifics. So what are you actually going to run on, liberals, progressives? Be very careful.
Right. And right. Like, so you're talking about the long game in Massachusetts. I think that the left and the current Democratic Party in Massachusetts is running even too far left for the moderates and the indies here. And so like we see again the effects of inflation, we see the effects of high gas prices, we see people being angry. And so you see in civics, which does state by state polling on Biden's approval rating, you see Massachusetts is now under 50 for Biden. And that is incredible because this state went for Biden by like 20. Am I correct?
Yeah, 60-40.
So, it was like, so what's the breaking point here? The problem is Mass GOP, it doesn't have the infrastructure in order to really take in this midterm and do really well. I don't have a lot of hope there. I think a lot of smaller candidates are going to do on their own. They're going to win, which is awesome. They're going to do it without the help of the party infrastructure. And I mean, we even see Chris Doty and Deal polling the same against Maura Healey.
Well, actually, Chris Doty doing better. Okay, now polling the same number, but less were voting for. Like it took 3% away from Healy.
Yeah.
For Doty. That's
that's
a difference.
Look at, I mean, we can get into his campaign doing really awesome on another next week or whatever. And, but anyway, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I think that a lot of more independent candidates are going to do better without party infrastructure. But I think that there is going to be a breaking point, because I think that the far left in Massachusetts, in Boston and all of that, is even moving farther left than maybe what Western Mass can provide and support. Because if you've ever gone out to Western Mass, it's pretty conservative out there socially.
Well,
and
it's weird. There's very strong pockets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that strange old school labor type. And that type has been shifting and so we'll see if there's any shifts, because those are poor areas of Massachusetts. If inflation and high gas prices maybe have them vote they're kind of similar to the old yellow dogs of the South, but we'll see.
The advice,
yellow dogs of the South died out and became Republican.
I thought they were blue.
What?
Yellow or blue?
So they called the hardcore vote blue no matter who type of voter in the South, the old ones, they called them yellow dog Democrats.
Okay.
So a lot of my family in Kentucky were yellow dog Democrats. Like my great grandfather was a yellow dog Democrat. We have pictures of him fighting with another Democrat over Democratic policies.
My advice to any candidate running in Massachusetts in this year is to not really bring up abortion unless challenged on it, and then immediately flip it on the candidate who they're running against, who is no doubt in favor of fanatical, radical aspects of it. That's my advice. Run on the economy. Now, look, it's going to bring up because it's all they want to talk about and they want to pin you down. Just be like, sure, and then if they keep bringing it, all right, since you brought up abortion, let me say that my opponent wants to, wants late-term abortion in effect. That's outside the norm. That's insane. Okay, so just flip it. And that's the best aspect of it, and say that you want status quo, at least for now. So moving on from the electoral aspects of it, I think you touched on something that I think is important. Everybody's fired up. This came out Friday. It's Sunday. What do you think we're talking about on Thursday?
I don't know. I don't think the anger is going to last that long, because I think that I think that inflation still hits hard. I think high gas prices still hit hard. We're going into July 4th, and that means that gas prices are going to go up like they always do, and they're going to be elevated. I'm not sure that the Dems have the infrastructure in order just to sustain this type of anger over time. I think that Chuck Schumer yells from his podium, but is fairly ineffective because he is not a long-term strategist and kind of stupid. But again, I have always said this: Chuck Schumer is not a good counterpart to Mitch McConnell at all. And so I just don't know if they can sustain that. I think that by next weekend, we're going to see the anger go down. You might see some of the fringes keep yelling about this going into midterms. But again, what we have seen, and this is what Cook Political put out, that anyone who votes on abortion as one of their main top 3 issues, they're already Democrats. So you're not. That's what
I was saying before. Like, it's maxed out.
It's maxed out. They're not reaching out to, I mean, even if you find a pro-choice moderate, they're going to watch on the news these protesters go insane, and they're not going to be.
What they'll eventually see is like, oh, Roe v. Wade's overturned. This goes back to the states. Okay, what's the laws in my states? Okay. They either agree with it or they don't agree with it, and maybe that'll float it to a state election. But even here in Massachusetts, we have pretty liberal abortion laws. The only option for a Democrat candidate running on abortion is to go further, which is distasteful to most of the electorate. So it'll fade. Like, look, July 4th is next weekend. We've got the whole summer and the fall. They're not going to sustain that anger. That anger is going to fade. And you've maxed out all the people who really care and fired them up. You had them on the protest. Okay, do another pussy hat march like 4 years ago, whatever.
But
like it ain't gonna work.
Their pussy. That's one of the things. So like your president is in the White House right now. He is not really doing anything to promote your cause at all. The Dems in Congress have been pretty inept over this. Not only inept, but they have chosen not to federally protect abortions based on they don't want to lose their political power. They actually think that this is so controversial that they do not want to put forth a bill. And the House is different from the Senate. Okay. So like we have to think of it that way. So like the House allows those big, massive populist swings. They might pass something, but that doesn't mean the Senate's going to pass it, because the Senate is really important. Like if they lose Senate seats, they're in for it for 6 years, right? So they have to play a strategist game with that. Chuck Schumer can't do that, right? Like he has no ability in order to play the long game like Mitch McConnell does. And Mitch McConnell might not have the players that he wants this midterm round. I do understand that, like JD Vance, like that's not someone he probably wants, or like maybe Oz in Pennsylvania. But Chuck Schumer is not going to pass a massive fringe abortion bill that comes from the House. Okay. So that's one of the things I think Dems don't understand. If they had come down, like that's the thing, Susan Collins put forth a deal on a codifying Roe and putting forth this. What was the deal breaker, Jeff? Do you remember this?
No.
Catholic hospitals.
Oh, okay.
Catholic hospitals being able to say, we're a Catholic hospital, we are not going to perform abortions.
Right. And they were going to force them. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the deal breaker. That was the deal breaker. So, I mean, and Susan Collins is one of the most bipartisan Republican senators out there. You know, she is the best that we are going to get out of the state of Maine. When we have needed her, she's been solid. So like, even if she is kind of what Kavanaugh and Gorsuch said to her, I kind of give her the pass, and a lot of people hate me for that, but like, that's fine. You can hate me for that.
Well, no, but what Kavanaugh and Gorsuch said to her and is like, is basic Supreme Court nominee stuff. It's like, well, the precedent is there until they're presented with a case that they overturn the precedent. Right.
Well, the thing is like you can respect the precedent, but the idea of a precedent is that it can be overturned by their judicial decision. So, I mean, we're headed for it. I mean, again, Republicans came to the table and was like, we can get some people to codify Roe. Let's do this. And they didn't want to waste one of their reconciliations, and they didn't want to come to the table and protect religious freedom. And that was a red line for them, which is insane.
It's a crazy hill to die on. It's
right.
Just but they're not again, they're lazy, they're weak, they're not good at this anymore. They used to be great at it in the 80s and 90s. Like Republicans would get played by Democrats over and over again. That was part of the lesson, actually, the long-term lesson people were learning over time. You know, when Reagan got burned on immigration, Bush 1 got burned on taxes, like the whole deal. Like Republicans and conservatives learned a lesson. And the liberals, the progressives, I guess rested on their laurels. I'm going to play a clip of our current attorney general and candidate for governor, Maura Healey. It's going to be a quick clip of her, but I want to discuss this in a second.
Abortion will determine whether or not a woman is able to go to school, stay in school, join the workforce, leave the workforce. So I want to be clear that this is an assault and affront achieved by right-wing ideologues who sit on our Supreme Court, who are doing their damnedest to keep women down.
Okay, that's insane. That's insane. So notice like how the argument isn't about what the argument is about. It's about oppression.
No, it never is. Yeah. It never is. And that's one of the things that I think is, get it. Right-wing ideologues, they're pretty much laying down framework to say that the Supreme Court is illegitimate. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things that's like, I don't really want to talk to liberals about January 6th when they support this bullshit. Yep. Like, and to be quite honest, like, I just don't. because I think that January 6th was bad and a very sad day, my birthday.
We'll celebrate that every January 6th going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. The joke is that my birthday is worse than 9/11 now.
No, let me point something out, and this may be a little bit gauche for me to bring up, but Maura Healey is not a mother, and she's not planning on being a mother from, you know, who she is. Okay, fine. She's gay. You know, to all the working moms out there, to all the moms who put themselves through school while they had kids, how fucking insulting is that statement? That it's just some dollars and cents, free to be you decision about getting an abortion, and it's designed to oppress women, right? To keep women down so that they can't go to school and go to work. As if this is like, if it's just the fucking Taliban. And
you're making right. You're making, so at that point, like that I hate statements like that because they're based in economic decisions, right? Like that's the economics behind it. That's the point, that you can choose your career over having a kid. You can choose, you know, you can choose other things over having a kid, free time, whatever. Maybe you're just not ready to be a mother. But at the same time, when you're doing that, you're basically saying that this human life that you created, whether or not you're in a relationship or not, is not the same value as yours.
Correct. And look,
that is there is a higher philosophical meta conversation on your disgusting point of view. But
but here's the thing about that, Kaitlin. At least they're being honest. They don't want to give up their lifestyle.
I think that this point of view had helped push forward the pro-life cause, to be quite honest. When they are honest about what their point of view is, people say, wow, you're stone cold fuck nuts. And so even me as a moderate pro-life or pro-choice person cannot sign on to that.
Yeah. Right?
Like that's one of the things that I think that a lot of pro-choice moderates are saying. Like when you say that birth is violence and then you put women with an X instead of an E in it,
or the term forced birth. I mean,
forced
if you know, like Van Jones said this a week or two ago to like when they were talking about Latinx and trans this and that. He's like normal people don't talk like this. Like you people are weird. When you come out with stuff like forced birth and insane takes. Like that not and the opposite of safe, legal, and rare, which used to be the Democratic position.
That was a winning. That's the thing. Like I see this point of view from like moderate Dems all the time. When you voted for Bill Clinton, so
I was in college. It was a different time.
Okay.
I didn't vote for Joe Biden in 2008 like Jeff Deal did.
Anyway, so like it's, you know, that message was a winning message for Dems because it was moderate, right? Like that spoke to what the policy polling on the subject of abortion was at the time. Right now, Dems have, instead of, you know, looked at the policy polling, and trust me, the policy polling on abortion is faulty no matter what, because polling has its errors. But at the same time, when a majority of the public says they want a right to abortion, but they want those restrictions on it, when you're talking about forced birth and mandated pregnancy, that stuff's insane. Like that's the thing. Like you are out of line with what the electorate believes on this.
Yeah. No, it's bonkers. Let me see what other clips I had pulled. I've got Ayanna doing her Ayanna thing, but I mean it's just whatever you come to expect. You know, are there any other aspects about this that we haven't covered just before we wind down here?
I do want to read one tweet that I sent to you yesterday. Let me find it. That I thought
I can pull it up too.
That was one of the, she deleted it. It's from Julia. I will butcher her last name. Ioff. Yep.
Well, Julia, I have the RBG one that you sent me.
Let me read this one.
Okay.
Because this is one of the craziest takes that I've read in this. A friend from Moscow writes, "It's strange that with all the insanity happening in Russia right now, the right of a woman to have an abortion is not being called into question by anyone." So if you didn't know, Russia has one of the highest abortion rates in the world. I think they cut it off at 15. They're pretty similar to Europe on that, but they have the highest abortion, one of the highest abortion.
Shocking.
I think they're number one.
Shocking that the Russians have a disregard for human life, and coming out of a communist regime where they have forced abortions, including China. I mean the Chinese where they had their one child policy for decades.
They're having problems with that right now because their population's in decline right now.
Right. They're also having also an after effect of that is because the Chinese for decades where they were aborting the female babies. So they have a real population problem right now because there's all these men with that literally can't find mates.
Yeah, like all of their men are like incels.
Yeah, which is not a healthy place to be. All right, I think we thoroughly discussed this and all the political ramifications. You know, as we wrap up, I think the anger is going to fade. You know, in a matter of days. We just live in a different society. We're not on a 24-hour news cycle. We're in a 24-minute news cycle. Okay, it's just something else is going to come up.
You're gonna see your white liberal Peloton mom Insta stories go back to pictures of dogs and stuff. You'll see the Facebook comments wind down. You might see some stuff in November, but in November, I don't think that's gonna incite the emotional response that it does now.
Oh yeah, and a couple things on this. But as we wrap up, as I'm remembering more, I think the leaked decision blunted a lot of the.
They knew it was coming.
Yeah, so we knew this was coming, but also, the threats against the lives of Supreme Court justices. These things being pushed to the side, not discussed in media, and the focus on abortion. I look, you may think because you're deep blue progressive that this needs to be discussed all the time. You're going to overplay your hand.
They always do, Jeff. They always do. And, it's one of those things where, it kind of makes me laugh. I mean, the leaked decision, the thing that did surprise me when it came down on Friday is that Robert signed on to a lot of it. That was
maybe
big one.
Redemption for Obamacare. I don't know. He probably had a come to Jesus moment, right? It's like he's always been squishy.
The assassination attempt. And that's the thing. Like he's an institutionalist, right? So like he might not totally agree. He's not super ideologue. Did not like Trump. You could tell that. Yeah. I was really shocked that he signed on to a lot of it. So good for him. Not bending to the pressure. We thought that was going to happen.
And by the way, for all those who are just flat out lying about like what the future possibilities of our outlawing birth control and repealing gay marriage and all the stuff that was just in that Thomas alluded to, the
concurrence,
the concurrence with that, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, Alito, it was not in any of their opinions. And by the way, Thomas was just talking about the Supreme Court decisions, okay? Now, even that those cases would have to make it to the Supreme Court themselves. I mean, look, I was even in Massachusetts. Gay marriage became legal in Massachusetts, which I support that, right? I support the government, allowing two consenting adults to get married if they choose to. I didn't like the way it happened in Massachusetts, where the Supreme Judicial Court just was like, yeah, okay, you can do that now. Like, hang on, you should have passed a law or amended the state constitution.
Right. It comes down to the same thing. It's the same principle in it. And this is the thing I tell my friends who are LGBT. I was like, guys, they need to legislate on this. Like, it is past time, and they need to come to the table with Republicans and figure this out. Because legislation is more powerful than Supreme Court decisions. Like, it really is. You're now seeing that.
The process is important. It is crucial. It is why you can't have a living constitution of interpretation by judges. It's literally why you write the things down. You write it down. with words that have the same meaning, that we all understand them to mean the same thing, because that's important. You need to say, no, this is what we're talking about, and it's not something you just feel or your truth. Like, you write it down. The process is important. We go about it. The legislators, you know, the EPA stuff you touched on. Yes, you don't have an unelected army of bureaucrats making policy. The people who you elect should pass laws about how we govern ourselves. The judicial, you know, the three branches of government, the judicial branch of government decides if those laws are constitutional or not. This is basic civic stuff, Dave Portnoy. Like, you got to get this. You got to get this. There's a process. You want the law to change, pass a different law. Okay?
Right.
Don't expand the court. Don't call it illegitimate. Don't pack it. You know, this is insane stuff that reverses the good things that America has done in the world for over 240 years now. All right. Anything else? We went long today. We were going to go long. We knew that. But
yeah, we were going long today. This is going to be our only episode. We're not doing the Patreon because we wanted to really deep dive into Roe being overturned, because it's such a historical event.
We will be back next week with a page. Yeah.
It's such a for the Independence Day, yeah. And so it's such a historical event. It's been a long-term goal of the conservative movement, and we're glad that it was overturned. It needed to be overturned for two reasons. One reason was to send these political decisions back to the states for legislatures, and even the federal government can legislate on this. It takes political decisions out of the judicial arena and legal arena back into the legislatures, which it is a pro-democracy stance, right, Jeff?
Yep.
And also it cuts down the quote unquote constitutional right that never really existed to abortion. And so while abortion will still exist in the United States, there's no federal right to it.
All right. Patreon.com/RhinoPod, only $1 a month for the Patreon extra content. Definitely subscribe if you like this podcast, where we give you extra stuff. All right. Until next time, everybody, have a great week, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.